All right, back on the test bench with this SoundQubed U1-8000, the 8,000 watt full bridge amplifier. It is rated for a 1 ohm load. So typically when you wire an amplifier to speakers at 1 ohm, then you're going to have some sort of impedance rise. And typically that's going to be about a 2 times rise if you have like just a standard ported enclosure. And like I said, that's typically. All systems can and will be different. So what we have here is 4 8 ohm resistors wired in parallel. So that is a 2 ohm load going to the amplifier. So that's going to, pretty much simulate the amplifier wired to 1 ohm in a vehicle. So I did a test on this same amplifier in a similar setup that we have today. I went back on my video to get the numbers. So the starting voltage was 14.65 volts. All right, so that's what we have right now, 14.66. We had the same 4 resistors connected, and we were playing 40 hertz, just like on the amp dyno. To power the amplifier, we had one Group 34 AGM, and it was a 60 amp hour battery. Right there, 60 amp hour. And this is a brand new battery, brand new. I bought it for one of my vans, and it's been sitting on the shelf, and I charge it periodically. So our claim volume was volume 46. The amplifier produced 2,699 watts. And then we dropped down to 11.42 volts. That is horrible. That is horrible. So all right, so then I went one more click up on the volume to volume 47, and the amplifier produced 3,449 watts, and it dropped down to 10.82 volts. That is horrible. You do not want that at all. And that test simulated somebody going out and buying an 8,000 watt amp and then trying to run it on stock electrical. A small amplifier, that's a 100 amp power supply. It really puts out about, call it 90 amps. So, there's alternators out there that put out less than that. So it's a, pretty good comparison. So they got a small alternator that's, set at 14.5 volts or so. And then they got one AGM battery in the back next to the amp, and they think that that's going to be sufficient. So let's set this to the side. Y'all can screenshot that, or you can go back and watch the other video. Either way. We'll set it to the side for now. We'll come back to that later when we get the results from this test. So here we have one bank of caps, the super caps from XS Power. These are the 2.7 volt, 3,000 farad capacitors, super capacitors. And we've got a bank of 6 wired in series. So that's good for up to 16.8 volts without going over the maximum voltage threshold. So there are 3,000 farad capacitors, but when you wire capacitors in series, it reduces the capacitance. Every cell that you add, it takes away from the capacitance. So this bank of 6 on the capacitors, so there are 3,000 farad capacitors, then you divide that by 6 cells, and that's 500 farads. That's what this one bank is, 500 farad bank. And that's, part of the way that capacitors differ from batteries. So I see people and hear people or whatever talking bad about super caps because they don't understand. They associate these super caps, the new technology of the super caps, and I say new because I'm referring to, those from back in the day. These kind of capacitors, they really didn't do anything but smooth out a little bit of noise on the amplifier input. That's about it. This is a 1 farad capacitor. That's good for about at 14.5 volts. That's good for about 14.5 watts. That's about what it equates to on capacitors, whether it's this style or this style. 1 farad equals 1 watt at a 1 volt drop. That's about what it equates to. It's not perfect math, but when you're trying to figure stuff out like that, then that's a good rule of thumb. So let's get back let's get back to this test. It's late in the morning or early in the morning. It's about 4:30 in the morning. I'm a night shifter. So I'm going to put this on minimum. So it's going to record the lowest voltage when I hit this thing. So I did some tests earlier. Volume 48 on this setup is clean. And again, it was 46 on the AGM battery. And I'll explain that here in a little bit. And then 49 was clipped. And I'm going to show you on the screen. And we'll see the power, the wattage, and the impedance. It'll be 2 ohm. So volume 48. And this is the DD1 track, 40 hertz. All right, so let's go. All right. So 4,339 watts at 2 ohms. 4,339 watts at 2 ohms, clean. Okay, clean. So we got almost 2,000 more watts out of this amplifier with this bank of caps versus the AGM battery. Okay, that's how strong these caps are. And look at the voltage drop. 13.09 volts. 13.09 volts. All right. So we got 4,300 watts, and we dropped 1.5 volts. So now I'm going to reset it. So now see we're at 14.66 volts. That's real time right there. So now I'm going to put it back on minimum. I'm going to reset this. Put it back on peak. Now we're going to go to volume 49. One click up. Volume 49. All right. Watch the screen, because this is going to hold your wattage. Watch the screen so you can see it clip. See the clip? 5,313 watts at 2 ohms. So again, we've got another almost 2,000 watts higher on the clip volume. And it dropped down to 10.82 volts on the AGM battery. On this just one bank of caps, 12.48 volts. So it dropped 2 volts. It dropped 2 volts. And it produced 5,300 watts. Now this is just one bank of caps, and you can get them for about 250 bucks, and then, you know, get the bars or whatever. Just one bank of caps. It's going to do you a heck of a lot better than an AGM battery for just probably about the same cost. That battery right there was over $200. It was over $200 at Advance, and it's pretty crappy battery. You know, I mean, I I'm spoiled with the good batteries with good voltage. So AGMs to me is just crap. But I mean, you know, they work good to start your vehicle. That's about it. When it comes to stereos, ditch the lead acid, ditch the AGMs, and get something different. Now, what I usually recommend on an 8,000 watt amp is two banks of caps if you're doing caps. And this is just one bank. So if we added another bank of caps, which I have a bank over here, but I just wanted to do it with one bank to show you, because it's about the same money price wise, you know, an AGM versus one bank of caps. And I know that this was just a burp right here, but you know, music, it's not a constant sine wave. It's not just a constant bass note. It does have the transitions in between bass, you know, the bass is coming, fading in, fading out, this, that, and the other, and caps charge and discharge at an astounding rate. So I just wanted to make this video to show anybody that says that caps are garbage, caps are junk. Those caps, absolutely, yes. These caps, the super caps, the Maxwell boost caps, no, these are really, really, really good options. And also, they work with any type of chemistry as long as it's within its voltage range. That's another thing about capacitor, the super caps versus batteries, is they have their full power discharge at any voltage range. Now, when you're dealing with lithium or AGM, any kind of battery, the lower the voltage is, the weaker the current capabilities are on the battery. That's not true with capacitors. The capacitors hold their strength, their electrical strength, throughout the entire voltage range, from 0 volts all the way up to 16.8 volts on this bank right here. It holds the same amount of strength, electrically speaking. All right, so I'll wrap it up with that. That's all for this one.